Trisha recently announced that she's pregnant with her second child, who she plans on naming Elvis after Elvis Presley, an idol that Trisha has been talking about for years throughout her career. What's strange about this is that Trisha has spent the past 2 years claiming that she's against adults who have relationships with minors. She's even been one of the biggest voices against Colleen Ballinger because she believes that Colleen groomed teenagers.
Everyone knows I have a very, very, very firm stance on talking to anyone underage, platonic or not. I've always been very, very firm with this, that I think it's inappropriate. It's a very hard, but like boundary. Like it's one that I don't let up on with anybody. I think it's weird. I talked about it multiple times. I think it's weird.
As you can see, she states that adults having relationships with teenagers is a hard stance that she doesn't let anyone get away with. However, she's naming her child after Elvis Presley, a man who became involved with Priscilla Presley when she was just 14 years old. Trisha is fully aware of this fact as she's addressed it a few times, as you can see here.
There's no excuse ever. As much as I love Elvis, I'm glad he's getting canceled. Like Elvis 21 dating like a 15-year-old? No. I don't care if it was the 50s. I don't care if it was a different time. You still groom that bitch. I think it's so gross. If you're not a teenager and you're dating a teenager, you're gross. I don't care how mature that person is, how many years ago, what, no. And it's never the underage person's fault, never. I could say like, oh, I was mature, I felt a connection, I wanted it. No. You're 16, you're 17, you're underdeveloped. You should not be dating anyone in their 20s. And if someone in their 20s is trying to pursue you, there's something wrong with them. It's just mentally not right.
Even watching Priscilla, I'm such a diehard Elvis fan, but like seeing that her parents like basically signed her off at 14 to go live with Elvis, I'm just like I couldn't even imagine, or even going out to like see him at night and stuff like that. I'm like, that's wild. Like I know it's a different time, but I could not imagine like signing over in Malibu at 14 to go like visit the weekend or something like that. I'd be like, no, what? That's so bizarre to me.
Just a couple of years ago, she spoke about how problematic it was for Elvis to be involved with a minor and even acknowledged it this year. Though as you can see, her stance starts to waver as she now claims it was a different time back then, even though in her initial video against it she claims that the year does not matter because an adult dating a teenager will always be wrong. Apparently it's okay to groom teenagers as long as it was done a long time ago and those teenagers grow up to support you. At least that's the message that Trisha spreads here just last year when she defends Elvis being with a 14-year-old even though she condemned him for it the previous year.
And then, yeah, then we went to see Elvis last night. Elvis is so freaking good. This movie is like so iconic. Like, you guys know I love Elvis for so long, and like, spare me the details on Elvis was this, that, whatever. Priscilla and Lisa Marie were promoting this movie. They were like, this is the best movie that was ever made about Elvis. Like, the deserved Oscars for Baz Luhrmann, for Austin Butler. Like, it gave me chills. You know, Elvis has been dead now since 1977. Different time, all that stuff like that. Not making excuses for his personal life, whatever, but like, honestly, this film gave me freaking chills, and I've always loved Elvis. I've obviously done, if you guys Google my name with Elvis, like, I've done covers of Elvis, dressed as Elvis. Like, Elvis was singing at our wedding last year. Elvis is my, like, everything. Like,
if she had such a hard stance against adults grooming minors, why is she now stating that it's okay because it was a long time ago? Does that mean that she'll absolve Colleen of her crimes in a few years? Because the crime of grooming has an expiration date? She's going after Colleen for befriending minors and being inappropriate with them, but she praises a grown man who got into an adult relationship with a child. A man who married that child that he groomed and had a child with that child. Of course a groomed teenager is going to support her groomer, so Priscilla Presley defending Elvis means nothing. That's the entire problem with grooming, that an adult manipulates a child's brain into thinking that things are okay when they aren't. How can Trisha go so hard against Colleen but name her child after one of the most well-known groomers in the entertainment industry? Is she against them, or not? Elvis Presley was 24 years old when he met 14-year-old Priscilla. In an article that Priscilla did with People in 1985, she described herself as an impressionable 14-year-old. Here are more quotes from that article. Keep in mind that Priscilla is speaking of a time when she was only 14 years old. We were lying on his bed, our arms around each other. Would I ever see him again, be in his arms the way I had been nearly every night for the past 6 months? And here are more quotes from when she was 17 years old. When I returned to Germany in my life as a senior in high school, I began to reveal to Mother that Elvis and I loved each other and longed to be together. Finally one day I summoned the courage to tell her that Elvis wanted me to finish school in Memphis. A man meets a 14-year-old girl and keeps her in his life, laying in bed with her, building an intimate connection with her and moving her to be with him when she's 17 years old so that she can finish out high school and be near him. He then marries her. Priscilla talks about how her parents were not okay with this but how they could do nothing to stop it. So, was it a different time, Trisha? If it was, why were her parents so against it? Here are quotes from Priscilla about how her parents felt about her relationship with Elvis as a child. My parents became confused and bewildered by our relationship. We tried to make them believe that it was proper and platonic, and they wanted to believe me. The article goes on to state her parents didn't approve, as she was still only 17. This seemed to be a big issue with her parents, as it rightfully should have been. Time does not lessen the crime of grooming. In fact, with grooming, time is exactly what a groomer needs to operate safely within the confines of it. Grooming is the process of normalizing inappropriate behavior between minors and adults. A 24-year-old man laying on a bed cuddling a 14-year-old girl is inappropriate behavior. A 27-year-old man moving that 14-year-old girl to be closer to him when she's 17 is inappropriate behavior. A groomer's goal is to train a child so by the time that they're adult, the adult has full control over them. That's exactly what Elvis did, and that is exactly what Trisha is not only defending but glamorizing. She's naming her child after a known predator. Would it be okay if she named her kid Woody Allen knowing the crimes that Woody committed against children? No, so why is it okay for her to name one after Elvis? Earlier this year Trisha even argued that Austin Butler not winning an award because of Elvis Presley's inappropriate past with 14-year-old Priscilla was unfair, rushing off the backlash against him as being political, as if an adult man grooming a 14-year-old child wasn't a big deal.
Maybe because Elvis has been canceled for being problematic, and I understand, I'm not defending him, obviously. He met Priscilla when she was 14 years old, like it kind of glazed over. I get it. So maybe it's like a political thing where they don't want to glorify Elvis or, make him be the victim. But I get it. I don't know. It feels a little more political.
We guess to her it's not, since she's naming a child after him knowing full well what he did. This just proves that Trisha doesn't really care about condemning groomers. It's okay as long as it happened a long time ago and they make good music. When Elvis Presley met the young Priscilla, she dressed primly and wore limited makeup. As their relationship wore on, however, he began shaping her looks to fit his tastes. This meant more eye-catching, mature clothing, high piles of hair, and heavy eye makeup. Priscilla moved out of her family home and in with Elvis at Graceland in the early 1960s. Once she moved in, he began exercising control over her looks. In her book Elvis and Me, she wrote,
"It was the early 60s, when clothes and makeup veered to extremes. Women's eyeliner was heavier, their hair more teased, and their skirts shorter than ever before. All the rules I'd learned about dressing and applying makeup, less is more and the simpler the better, were being broken. And men seemed to love it. Elvis certainly did. If I went a little light with the mascara or black eyeliner, he'd send me back upstairs to apply it more heavily."
To match her heavy eye makeup, Priscilla dyed her hair black and wore it stacked to teetering heights. Again, she did this at Elvis' request. He believed the look would suit her better than her natural one. In her book, it reads,
"Elvis liked long hair. When I'd cut mine without asking his permission, he was shocked. 'How could you cut your goddamn hair? You know I like long hair. Men love long hair.'"
Elvis dyed his hair black, and he told Priscilla to color hers to match his. Again, she wrote,
"The more we were together, the more I came to resemble him in every way. His tastes, his insecurities, his hang-ups, they all became mine. When he told me that the collar I was wearing on a particular blouse was too small for my long skinny neck, I too began wearing high-collared shirts. Why not? My sole ambition was to please him, to be rewarded with his approval and affection. When he criticized me, I fell to pieces.
A grown man molding a young girl's looks, personality and presentation to fit his liking? Controlling every aspect of her life? Tell us again how that isn't grooming, Trisha.